Welcome to the Rooted Healing podcast, where we seek to deepen our kinship with the living world and with the great mystery that runs through us. This is a space where stories heal with words that weave us closer to our wild and daring natures, bringing together the expansive minds, topics, and ideas that help us heal, reimagine, and co-create the world we wish to thrive in.
First thing that one has to learn is to empty of all of that we think we know or we have gathered here. Just empty and allow this to come, allow this to cleanse, allow this to show you, allow this to shape you.
Violeta Abitia is an artist, energy healer, and Reiki master who leads Reiki courses and children's art and mindfulness programs in San Cristobal de las Casas, Mexico. She is a Mexican elder I befriended whilst living in Chiapas, whose warm and worldly company and wisdom I treasured dearly. Violeta seeks to deconstruct the patterns that take us away from what she calls the most sacred experience granted to every human being on this planet, that of awakening. Her work calls to this awakening, to the infinite possibilities of inhabiting our divinity, a pact that once initiated lovingly demands the cultivation of that relationship. Her experience with Reiki has, in her words, come to shake her amnesia. This episode has been gathering dust in the archive due to an array of complications as it was filmed in person, partially edited, and then files were lost and I felt unable to edit the sound issues we had, and so on. But it has finally been salvaged and hopefully gives a warm and nourishing taste of the essence of Violeta's company, as she is someone who I feel is a humble mystic in her own right, treading a gentle path in her homeland after living in other parts of the world for much of her adult life. My audio was unrecoverable, so this episode is edited a little differently to usual, woven in with music from Miguel Angel Sui Sanz, who is an indigenous musician from the neighbouring town who would busk in San Cristobal de las Casas, and I just adored his music and the passion he sang with such a wise, old face and kind eyes. So piecing this episode together finally has felt deeply nostalgic. I hope you enjoy being immersed in Violeta's words and Miguel's music, morphing you into the mountains of Chiapas. You may hear church rockets going off in the background, along with a distant whining dog, all a part of the ongoing soundscape of that part of the world. We're busy at Rooted Healing, bringing new gatherings together, and I've personally been swallowed in a whole world of academia with essay deadlines, but we have some exciting guests lined up. So thank you for being here and thank you for your patience. Our ancestral gathering in July, the 10th to the 16th, is where we explore ancient wisdom, sacred craft, ceremony, story, song, deep ecology, and embodied remembrance. It is a process of creating profound belonging by exploring what it feels like to re-indigenize ourselves with the land, weaving ancient wisdom into forward-thinking innovation so that we may be reciprocal ancestors for our future generations. Head to rootedhealing.org/ancestral to learn more. We had the most incredible time holding earth medicine with a beautiful group of beings and are still amidst the integration program, exploring themes of relationship, reverence, and reciprocity. We have our next psilocybin retreat in October. You can learn more via rootedhealing.org/earthmedicine. So back to the episode where Violeta begins by giving us a sense of her art and mindfulness program with children and how the children are actually showing her and reminding her the essence of being.
A week and a half ago, I had a sacred ayahuasca ceremony. the first thing that the sacred medicine showed me was so moving. I remember closing my eyes and seeing and hearing the laughter that we've had. That the children are teaching me again, are reminding me how to play. How to play. To invite the spontaneity that is in children. One can create a little bit of a structure, but it's always spontaneous. I began to do this with balls, and we would pass the ball, and the other one would catch it, and then I would turn around and catch the ball. So without the balls falling. And the balls were falling because children were not paying attention, or because we were laughing, or because... And then I started just giving a couple of directions, you know? You are going to look, when you are given a ball, you're going to look in the eyes, and you're going to pay attention that you are receiving the ball. Now the ones who is throwing the ball is going to look at the other side, and you are going to pay attention that you're not throwing the ball so the other person doesn't catch it. But so attention, you know? It was a lot better. So we were doing this. And then I said, when you catch the ball, you say thank you. And then turn around and throw the ball. And when gratitude was introduced, not one ball fell. Just moving the energy in different ways. I developed a lot of games around these balls. And the first introduction that I made was the heart. In this part of the world, a lot of people ask you, how is your heart? In the native languages. And I brought an anatomically correct heart with all the little tubes and the ventricles. And I showed them the anatomically correct heart. They copied it and they made a collage. And then we spoke about our emotion. Where are emotions? How do we feel emotions? Where do emotions come from? Can we put an emotion through a collage in the heart? So I developed lessons around the elements. I developed lessons around events, for example, grief. And I mentioned grief because there has been a lot of loss around, and children are often, I feel, many children not spoken about in contexts where they can understand what is happening. Why do we need to cover? Why are people inside their houses? Why? So everything in the lessons, in the workshops, include conversation, be listened generously. There is a walking stick. It's your turn to talk, and it's our turn to listen. Practices, we use simple materials. I tried to introduce clay. Oh my goodness. The primitive in them came out, and we had to move to another area because it was full of clay, and it was rainy season, it was really muddy. And then one girl said to me, when are we going to get really dirty? Where can I put my feet on the clay? And she comes from a family where she had to be, like a little doll, dressed like a doll.
Beautiful.
Where can I put my feet on the clay? And to feel, yes, because many children are now a lot in these machines. So to bring them and to invite them to a place where we don't move so fast, where we are actually invited to quiet and also to show our joy. It's really exquisite. Children have tremendous wisdom. One of the girls, her grandfather just had a heart surgery last week, and before she left, she shared with us, I have something to share. I'm going to leave for 3 weeks because my grandfather, they're going to put in a new heart. Like the one you showed us, they're going to take the old one, they're going to put the new one. With all the little tubes that you showed us, they're going to connect them again. I said, well, how nice. We are going to light a candle for your grandfather. And so the children teach you.
Yeah.
And in what I saw in this ayahuasca ceremony was the first gift, to hear their laughter, to see, to know that they're teaching me how to play, how to enjoy the moment, how to be there, how to be present. All these teachings that the great teachers have reminded us, today, enjoy, enjoy. And also there is a structure, there seems that it's very loose and organic, yes. However, for example, I brought sacred geometry and I said, okay, we're going to work with compasses, we're going to make circles, we're going to make the seed of life, and it needs to be perfect. We need to pay attention. We need to look at the angle of the compass in order for that to be, and you can see in the children, you can see where they are, as to how they approach it, how they are frustrated, how they overcome their frustration, and how they all of a sudden they see this miracle before them. Because, there are some things that they cannot handle, and others that they can handle better than us. I mean, Picasso, among other artists, says we learn being great art. We are born being great artists, and then we forget, and then we have to go back to that. I am grateful. I wept in the ceremony when that was the first gift. I wept, and I thought, thank you. I treasure. I love to work with teenagers. One of my most beautiful experiences have been with young adults, with young teenagers, because we think in the States. I spent a lot of time in the United States, and it was my experience that I saw that teenagers were like the dysfunctional that we do not know where to put. However, this is a very important time. I mean, hormones kill neurons, and this is starting. And so where do you go with these waves of energy and this emotion and this, how there are no rites of passage in most of our cultures. The rite of passage, which in some cultures is now drinking till you drop, or, beginning your sexual activity or whatever, and they are, there can be tremendous work to do with them and among them. Yeah. Just recently, I witnessed a ceremony which was a Lakota ceremony to honor the first moon of a woman. And she was visiting from Germany, her relatives here, a 14-year-old, and we were all women inside the INIP, and each of the women shared what it was like to be a woman and what counsel or wisdom we could share, all different ages. It was really, really beautiful, and we invited then the men inside as well, but it was really sacred. And I hear about many women giving expression to the challenges we have still as women to fit, to mutate, to fit into the structures that were initially created by men. And one of them is, for example, not honoring the moon cycle, which does not have to be so tragic. I'm just thinking about men who says, "Oh yeah, she has her moon, stay away from her, like mad cow disease is settling in." No. I believe also that if women understand what is going on within them and can share with their partners or friends, there are several women in 1 month, energetically, depending on where you are with your cycle. Some of us who do not have our moon anymore have also those shifts. We have a different kind of freedom and beauty. One does go through the underworld again.
know that Violeta defied a lot of odds to travel across the world to follow her vision, despite the pressure to marry young and start a family, following those social expectations. So I asked her to share more about where her love for art began, and I was curious about the path that also brought her back to her homeland.
I can go back to my childhood in Mexico City, where I grew up surrounded by artists, even though my grandfather, who was a filmmaker and a photographer, died the year I was born. I know he held me often in his arms, and he named me Violeta after a string instrument. He was a luthier before he became a filmmaker. And one of the instruments that he built was La Violeta, and he named me after this instrument. I always thought of my grandfather as a very courageous man who, after building his string instruments, took the camera and followed the Mexican Revolution. All these stories I heard later from my grandmother, who was a wonderful storyteller. My father was a publicity draftsman, and I always go around with my father, can you teach me how to draw? How you teach me how to draw? And I had only one lesson from him as a child. It took many, many, many years for me to realize that I chose to become an artist to learn to speak the language that my father spoke. I left when I was 19. There has to be something else to life than waiting to be married and run a household in the same form. It was a very strong drive that I said, when I finish high school, I am moving to Spain. And people would say, and what are you going to do in Spain? I'm going to study art. And what are you going to work? Because my parents were not going to subsidize this. And I said, I'm going to be a nanny. I had everything very clear in my head, but I also was very naive. But there was something in a conviction and a strength that everything that I said manifested itself with certain ease. Then now in the middle of my life in Barcelona with a one-way ticket and $200 in my pocket and being a nanny and being in an art school, I was faced with quite a lot of challenges. My great-grandmother was Yaqui, a pure Yaqui Indian, and she was hidden in this history of my families. In Mexico, there is a quite rigorous social distinction between the Europeans and the Spanish, and here the Coletos, and you want to erase the Indian blood as if the Indian blood were something to blemish. In Austria, I came upon Navajo Indians. Think of it. Navajo Indians were working the teepee, the vision quest, all that, and very much connected to the Castañeda stories and I thought, I need to go to Mexico to look for a medicine man. Now beware what you ask the universe, because I was coming to find a medicine man that would walk me through more of an earth journey. And my husband at the time, the man that I married, Clayton, was an allopath doctor, traditional doctor. A medicine man, yes, of course, It was in my mothering that I began to yearn for Mexico, that I began to yearn for what was familiar to me, because there was no point of reference. I think we want to return to the womb, to this place that holds us, that nourishes us, where we feel safe, where we can be free, be nourished, be safe. And I thought Mexico would bring that. It took many years.
Yo nací en una ribera del Arauca vibrador. Soy hermano de la espuma, de las garzas de la rosa.
Violeta has taught several of my friends of various levels of Reiki and is a renowned teacher, so I asked her to elaborate on her relationship with Reiki and how she embodies this transcultural wisdom in her daily life.
Reiki is a practice. It's actually a worldwide practice of placing hands and channeling energy. Reiki was practiced in feudal Japan prior to the Meiji renovation, Meiji emperor, at the end of the 1800s, as a channeling of hands. Now, Miguel Sui, the man who is given credit to have invented Reiki, which is not true, he just was born and gathered wisdom from many spiritual traditions and became enlightened in a 21-day fast in Mount Kurama, and came to meet the vertical aspect of being human. We live in this world in horizontal way, the body, the earth, the planet, and then we have, nirvana in Japanese, and Shinritsume, illumination, maybe in the Christian tradition. So he brings this axis. And so what is it? It is very simple. It is so simple that it's difficult, because the most difficult is to quiet the mind, to connect yourself with the energy. We do this in various ways. One of the ways is a mudra, which is an antenna that joins the energy centers in the hands. This is very difficult in many traditions, because particularly in the Christian tradition, we are taught to ask, make a petition. And yes, we also make a petition. However, the first thing that one has to learn is to empty. Empty of all of that we think we know or we have gathered here. Just empty and allow this to come. Allow this to cleanse. Allow this to show you. Allow this to shape you. Becoming a Reiki master is a lifelong journey. And it's not really a false honesty to say that I don't consider myself a Reiki master. I consider myself a Reiki practitioner who teaches, who shares, who channels. However, it was not until last year where I was shed of everything I can imagine. I went into a deep depression, you can call it, a dark, dark place where all the tools that one is born with to develop resilience were just not there. Not even Reiki. It was a lot of, I need to keep myself alive. I need to keep myself alive healthy. Pandemic concerns were not my concern. I thought, thank God the world stopped. I need silence. I could walk through the city. The city was empty. In that year, last year, I came to understand what it is to be a pure channel. Get away your idea that you are going to save anybody, that you're going to heal anybody, that you're going to tell the universe what the universe already knows. Just connect. Just empty, just empty. And be quiet. We must wake up with gratitude. In the Usui Reiki Ryoho, there are 5 precepts which we honor. We pay attention. They're not obligations, but they're loaded with energy. And it says, just for today, because yesterday was yesterday, and tomorrow we don't know. Just today, this moment. Do not be angry, because anger is the quickest way to lose energy. Angry, because the truck comes screaming that they want to sell something, or because the rocket goes up, or you're angry at yourself for something and holding it, or you're angry at something that comes even from another life, or anger. And it doesn't mean that you don't put a limit, say, okay, no, it's not about, it's about not becoming violent. I do not injure you in something that I disagree. I respect, I don't injure you. The second one is do not worry. Worry is a national sport, an international sport. And in this time, I worry I'll become infected, I worry about this, I worry about that. No, worry in Spanish is preocupar. I occupy myself to give energy before something happens. I will give negative, and usually is an energy that is not enabling. Worry. And the third one is gratitude. So you see the first two, you're losing energy, and then comes gratitude. And gratitude for what challenges you and what you believe blesses you. Everything is a blessing in the end, And the fourth one is work diligently and honestly. And it doesn't mean that you cheat in your work or that you waste time checking your WhatsApp or whatever, No. What is the work that we come to live, to experience, to share, to nourish, to enrich, what is the journey, the work? Not only what you make to earn your living, what is that work? And the last one is love thyself and love everyone. And really love thyself. Understand what it's like to love thyself, to love your mistake, your ugliness, your greed, all your mistakes. Learn to love it. And love the other one. And do to other as you would do to yourself.
Thank you for being here with the Rooted Healing community. You can visit violeta.abitia.com to connect with Violeta and her work. Of course, as always, all the links are in the show notes. Through deepened imagination, consciousness expansion, and cross-cultural wisdom exchange, we explore human-to-nature ecology to ignite collective healing, awe, and interconnectivity. We offer nature-immersive ceremonial gatherings, legal and safe psychedelic-assisted psilocybin retreats, integrative healing courses, and a growing collection of resources rooted in regenerative reciprocity. Visit rootedhealing.org to learn more. Please consider joining our Patreon community, where you can gift forward and support our work in exchange for bonus material, book and gift giveaways, meditations, workshops, episode transcripts, community discussion, and discounts to our events. Your monthly contribution, which can be as little as £3 a month, helps us cover the costs of running the show, and our hope is to gather enough abundant gifters to afford professional audio production so that we can free up more time to focus on gathering together in person, which is the heartbeat of our work. Our Patreon has a rich archive of resources to support you, which you gain immediate access to when signing up. Come follow us on Instagram at Rooted Healing Co, or find us on the various platforms you tune into. And don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe to the show if these stories and conversations are resonating with you. It's a beautiful, simple act of reciprocity to make those couple of clicks and help others discover our work. Thank you so much for being here. I'm your host, Veronica Stanwell. Thanks for listening.